Hello. So I just want to touch again, very briefly, on a point that Coué makes that is really underappreciated, and that is that what we think naturally, what just comes up easily and naturally for us, is in all likelihood the direction our life is going to take, or what's going to end up happening in our life. I've done a podcast episode about this, or several episodes about it, but one specifically that I can remember, I'll try to link to it. Basically just talking about how quote unquote unconscious thoughts or subconscious thoughts are actually just very quiet thoughts that we naturally and automatically easily are thinking to ourselves. They're the thoughts that naturally pop up, and they pop up so naturally, so easily, because we're so used to having them that we don't even notice them. So it's not that they're actually unconscious in the sense that we aren't even aware of them, at least usually. It's that they're so fast, so subtle, and so normal for us, so expected, that we don't pay any attention to them. So, for instance, it's like if you start to assert or to affirm or to make statements that you are now a very wealthy person, there's all these quiet, subtle thoughts throughout the day that are telling you that you're not. That it's like, no, you're not. Like, you don't have that much money. You don't have that kind of financial opulence. You don't live in, those beautiful quarters or whatever it may be. All these thoughts. So you make this, this big intention, and it doesn't really do anything, because there's all of these unconscious thoughts that come afterwards that automatically pop up that counteract it and mitigate it. Which is why I say that, what Coué is talking about, and what basically all these law of attraction teachers are talking about, is you have to assert something firmly enough, fully enough, so it actually changes how those automatic thoughts come up in your unconscious. That is why the law of attraction works in the way it does. Somebody like Neville, the reason that his vivid imaginary exercises work so well when you do them correctly is because you've created a scene, or you have, in the very least, felt something imaginally so fully in your mind that it actually shifts and changes those subtle, usually, unconscious thoughts we have, those thoughts we don't even notice. When you dramatically and vividly feel something as being different on the inside in the way that Neville suggests, it actually changes your unconscious thinking patterns. But again, your unconscious thinking patterns are just those quiet thinking patterns that we usually don't pay attention to because we're so used to them. So it's like if you do a Neville-like exercise or a Joseph Murphy-like exercise, or any exercise where you just really vividly imagine now being significantly wealthier, and you feel it, it stirs things up in a good way. It makes it so you start to have these unconscious thoughts that, like, oh, everything's okay. I am getting wealthier. I do have that money. And if you persist in accessing that feeling again and again, then eventually all those unconscious thinking patterns, they're saying, no, this is unrealistic, this is absurd, you don't have that money, you're poor, whatever, they start to be neutralized, because you've put this new unconscious thinking pattern in, which is really just a quiet thinking pattern that's very positive and saying, no, I'm wealthy now, I'm getting wealthier and wealthier, I feel wealth inside of me, and it's going to show up in the external world. So, as Israel Regardie pointed out so well in his essay about Neville, it really is autosuggestion. It's really what you're suggesting to yourself quietly and unconsciously that is making all these things happen, in my opinion, in Israel Regardie's opinion, in Coué's opinion. It's what you are thinking unconsciously, quietly, automatically to yourself during the day that then directs your life in the way it's going to go, and is, the results you're going to get in your life are a reflection of these quiet thinking patterns, these unconscious thinking patterns, these imaginal thinking patterns that you are continually having, moment to moment to moment. It's okay if you have a train of thoughts that are negative. It's just you want to become more aware of that so you can say, you know what? I see you train of thoughts that are negative, and I'm not buying into you as much. And I'm buying into now being a better person, now being a healthier person, now being a wealthier person, now being a more loved person and a more loving person. Whatever, you can counteract that negative suggestion, that negative thinking pattern very easily just by suggesting to yourself with a fullness and with a, with power that you are now getting better. You are now changing positively. This is so much of what Coué is talking about, and what all these law of attraction teachers are talking about pretty much, including Neville. What are you thinking to yourself? What are you quietly thinking to yourself that you're hardly noticing because you think it so regularly? And if you start watching that, and maybe even make a time each day to do daily self-analysis, like the success indicator that W. Clement Stone talks about, where you actually analyze, like, did I feel wealthier today? And then you maybe grade yourself on a scale from 1 to 10, where it's like, did I feel wealthier today? And you realize, you know what, thinking back on it, yeah, I did. I felt more positive about my sense of wealth and abundance in my life. So maybe you'd mark that as like a 7 or 8 on the 1 to 10 scale. Or maybe when you reflect back on your day, you realize, you know what? I was trying to assert to myself that I feel abundance, I feel wealth, but I still felt kind of overwhelmed with negative thoughts about money and my financial situation. So maybe you'd mark yourself as like a 2 or 3 on that scale. And what you want to do is focus and continually redirect yourself so this unconscious thinking pattern that's relatively negative becomes more and more positive. So instead of having a lot of days where you're like on a 1, 2, or 3 on the scale, you start to have more and more days that are up to a 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and that you then start to continuously have a lot of days that are like 7, 8, 9s, maybe even 10s. This is pragmatic self-improvement. As I always say, a lot of this stuff. And we can tie in these cool ideas about using our imagination and suggesting positively, affirming in a very full, vivid way to our imagination to change things on the inside. And in a way, this is so straightforward that it's advanced. That's what I always talk about when I talk about the success indicator in W. Clement Stone. I've made videos about that too. So, I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, you can let me know, and have a good day.